Gary Parker. I'm one of the Associate Directors of EY Breakthrough Incentives, which is part of Ernst & Young. For those of you that haven't met me before, first of all, thanks for everyone to dialing in this morning, because we appreciate you're all busy. And this is the first of a series of what will be 3 innovation-focused events that we're going to be running over the next couple of months. Just to give you a bit of background, the idea was born out of a conversation between us and our friends at the Chambers of Commerce. We were talking about networking events and business events, and with the advent of people doing more Zoom and virtual video networking, there's an awful lot out there. And we thought what we'd like to try and do is to bring something slightly different and slightly new to the party, to use that word hybrid, which is getting used in seems to be every conversation I have at the moment. This is a bit of a hybrid event. So we're going to have some traditional elements. We're going to hear from some guest speakers. We're going to have an opportunity for you to do a little bit of networking and meet some people that hopefully you haven't met before, make some new connections. And there'll be a bit of an innovation challenge in the networking session. There'll also be a Q&A panel session at the end, where we've got panel members who come from various different industry sectors and are more than happy to answer questions and give you some advice and top tips on how to be more innovative and creative. And really the whole focus on this is about collaboration. It's about sharing ideas. We've seen in the last 18 months that small businesses especially have had a huge challenge to try and figure out how in many places to reinvent themselves, to be relevant in a new marketplace or a new environment, how to come up with ideas for better products or better services that serve the needs of their customers, and also how to engage with people in a different way. And that's customers and employees and staff who are now managing remotely, and we're not all working together in the same way. So it's a huge amount for businesses to try and tackle and to sort of overcome. And the idea for today is to try and share some ideas, come up with some new and creative ways of being more innovative, but also more sustainable, so that you can be more successful going forward. The agenda today is going to be, as I say, it's broken down into a couple of elements. I'm going to hand over shortly to my colleague, Sue Nelson, who's going to host the event for us. Sue is a multi-award winning businesswoman and broadcaster and author, and has a huge amount of experience of working with SMEs and helping them grow and scale. We're then going to hear later on from Andrew Gomersall, and some of you will know Andrew from his exploits as one of the 2003 England Rugby World Cup winning team. He's also an MBE, but I'm sure one of the most proud moments was that when he took over as the CEO for a Suffolk-based business that focuses on innovation and technology to help other companies be more sustainable in the way that they work. So Andrew's got some really interesting ideas that he wants to talk to us about. We're then going to have the breakout session where we'll put you in breakout rooms and there'll be an opportunity to network. And then at the end of the day, we'll be doing some Q&A with the panel members. There will be a survey, I think, that we're going to be having up online or through the chat. So we're going to ask you to fill that in at some point during the proceedings to give us a bit of feedback and tell us what you like. And that really is enough from me. I think I've spoken for probably more than a couple of minutes. So at that stage, I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Sue, who's going to take us through the majority of the rest of the morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Very, very pleased and honoured to be joined by a pretty decent panel. And thank you also, Andrew Gomersall, for joining us. Andrew's going to be speaking at 9:50 exactly. So my job's to keep everybody on time. We've got a great panel, which includes Emma Blaylock, who is the SME business, is an SME business growth consultant. And she's got lots of advice she can give us on startup and scale up. Sally Goodsall, who is Managing Director of Anglia Capital Group, Alice Reeve, CEO of Hethel Innovation, and Jonathan Goodacre, who is a UK and European patent and design attorney for Kelty LLP. So we've got a really good range of people who can give you some great advice today. Just to start off, as an introduction, I started my business 6 years ago in my conservatory with one other person. And within 5 years managed to grow it to a £2.5 million turnover business, but with a £1 million net profit, which got bought by Ernst & Young a year ago. So the question is, well, frankly, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But the question is, how do you scale up a business And how do you use innovation in order to drive that productivity and make you attractive enough for a multi-billion-pound international company to buy you? So what I was going to just do for the next 10 minutes is just explain some of the things that I passionately believe in terms of innovation, and how that has certainly helped me to grow my business into something as quite an attractive proposition for somebody else to buy. So the key for me, without question, is getting the right people on your team. And I have some very particular views about the education system, so I'm very sorry if I'm going to offend anybody, but basically I think our education system was built for the Industrial Revolution. It has a very narrow set of things that are measured. So change, emotional intelligence, communication skills, creativity, flexibility, and other forms of intelligence are not really taught or measured. But as an employer, I did feel that those are the things that I needed. And to be honest, I don't really give a hoot if someone has an A-level in geography, because it doesn't really tell me anything, other than they might be less likely to get lost on the way to see a client. But I do feel that education is sort of done to people to pass exams. And as an employer, I've gradually over the years, I've found that less and less useful guide to how good that employee will be for me. And I feel that the education is slightly like a passive process. And in some respects, depending on the person, it can limit them and therefore can stunt their ability to innovate. And many people think they're a failure because they failed their exams at school in one small period of their life. And God knows what's happened with kids who are going through COVID at the moment, how that is interrupting their education and how that will impact them later on. So we didn't really employ people who had amazing exam results. And this does, of course, depend on your job. So if you're going to recruit a surgeon or a lawyer, it probably is very important to have exam results. But in our business, where we were a financial services business, very, very focused on customer service, it wasn't something we were interested in. And I don't think that if you, I mean, I've worked at Barclays Bank, I've worked at big multinationals. I did seem to find that I was working in silos very often. And the petty politics drove me around the bend. And I think I found it very risk averse. I found the long hours to be counterproductive, a blame culture, and generally a lack of joy, frankly. And that's not where you find innovation. And that sort of culture doesn't allow for judicial risk taking because it's a risk averse atmosphere. Innovation, quite clearly for me, is about making mistakes. It's about imagination and it's about freedom. So you have to be able to join dots, appreciate outliers, be inquisitive, understand behaviors, look for patterns that are not at first obvious, and think in a non-linear way, really. And the only way you can achieve that, in my personal opinion, is to have a group of people who work for you who are very, very different, and who can spark off each other. In modern speak, of course, that means a diversified workforce. For me, it's the key to innovation. It embraces debate, off-the-wall contributions, anything's allowed, you can say anything, you can try anything. And if everyone's an A student and great at passing exams, and they're all middle class, and they're all white, and they've all been on a gap year traveling, they are clever, but possibly only in one dimension. So we really looked hard at how do you recruit for innovation? You know, how do we get the people that we want, who are going to make a massive contribution in the recruitment process? So for me, you have to have a very strong culture, and culture that genuinely allows people to suggest ideas and try them out. But how do you attract them to your business? Well, for me, I think you need to stand out as a business, and you need to stand for something. And I think you need a strong sense of purpose and a strong culture that is 100% aligned to strategy. And that's not just platitudes, But for me, if you want to attract the best people, the best story wins, as long as it's authentic. So I'm a very zealous missionary for my ideas, but then so are my employees, and they buy it and they believe it 100%, and they can repeat it and live it. And I think you need to ooze your culture. And if you are a business founder, you will be really passionate about what you do. You'll be very clear about how you want it to be, what you want it to feel like, what it's like to do business with you. And that's what you've got to imbue in your employees, standing for something, being proud of that, and making sure everybody gets it. So we ooze that sort of culture in our job ads. We use that language to try and get the right type of people to apply. We don't ask for qualifications, and we don't take references, because, to be honest, we couldn't really care less what they've done before. It's their behaviours and attitudes for us, their ability to embrace change, make suggestions that we care about. And I think it's fair to say that all our staff are self-taught and self-starters. They've got a range of skills, you know, an amazing range of skills that aren't necessarily academic. I've employed a sniper from Afghanistan, very tempted to put him on credit control. I've employed somebody who used to work in a zoo and was a penguin expert. Somebody who worked in a hospice, who was an amazing caring person, which was great at customer staff. Employed a cleaner, we've employed a window specialist, I mean, all sorts of people. What we do is we know they're the right people for us, and then we shape them and train them and build the job around them, and we set them up to succeed. We really invest in them and we really train in them, and each one has a mentor from outside the business, even Tracy, the cleaner. So no one is allowed to work at weekends, after hours, on their holidays. No one's allowed a laptop to take home. Slightly different now because we have to work at home, but working over your hours is just, it's not allowed. And everybody has to have an hour for lunch, and you're not allowed to eat at your desk when we are in the office. And we want people to be fresh and ready and excited when they go to work. In terms of technology, technology is not innovative in itself. People are innovative, and they are innovative in using and bending technology to suit themselves and their ideas. So we're not hindered by technology. We use it to free us up to think imaginatively. And I see technology, I'm always very excited by technology. I see technology as an enabler and an infrastructure and the tools and sort of kit that underpin how we want our people to contribute. So when I started my business, it may sound profligate, but we had the best kit, fastest computers, the most advanced CRM systems, the best phones, the best headsets. And we did that from day one because we wanted to make sure that our people could really do their job effectively. And if the computer starts to run a bit slow and gets knackered, we get another one, and then we recycle it. So we use technology to make things easy and quick and give space and time for us to experiment and think. And we ensure that every person is trained within an inch of their life to be able to use the technology. You'd be so surprised about how many people actually hide the fact that they can't really use technology very well. So we absolutely make sure they do know how to use what they've got in front of them. Everybody knows what to do. We have very detailed processes, and technology is there to help us. So the final thing, does this make our business productive? Well, yes, it certainly does. As I said to you, we made £1 million EBITDA on 2.5 million the year before last year. And that's a net profit of 40%. And we had 20 staff who did that. And 4 of them part-time. They don't work over their hours. They have 28 days holiday a year. And in essence, each member of staff is producing about 50K's worth of profit. So it does prove that getting the right people with the right behaviors who understand you as a founder and what you're trying to do absolutely works. So that's my particular rant finished. Now, I know, and Andrew, 9:50, got 2 minutes to go, so I'm pretty good at timing. Andrew, I know you've had a journey from your World Cup winner, but now obviously tackling sustainability is really key for you. You've got 20 minutes. Would you like to explain to us your particular feelings about sustainability and in business?
Yes, morning everyone, and thanks, Sue. My new world, a lot of the things that you spoke about just now resonated with me. I was infatuated with business when I was so lucky to leave university straight into a professional sports contract. Playing the game that I loved, I grew up 6 years old, throwing a rugby ball around. To be able to do that as a job was just so blessed. And number one thing about the sport that I played, rugby union, was the culture. Absolutely number one in everything that we do. And if you're a supporter, I've got this big mug here, which is a Harlequins mug. I played for 7 Premiership clubs, so forgive me. I have loyalty to the winning team whenever they play each other. That, you never give up. They were 28-0 down in the semi-final, came back to win that, and won the final at the weekend, 40 points to 38, having finished 4th against the number 1 team, Exeter. And if you looked at how they celebrated and how much it meant to them, the losing coach, who's a really experienced, won the European Cup, won the Premiership in the same year last year. He said they kind of wanted it more than us. It meant more to them this year to win it. And I'm so blessed to have played sport, and it has to mean so much when you're on the pitch having to deliver. It has to mean so much to you. And you mentioned purpose there. Now, purpose is everything again. And so many organizations get their purpose wrong. When my infatuation with business is kind of, how do you guys do it? And now I'm in it, 10 years in it, and the parallels are insane. And you mentioned get the right people in the right place. Now England are playing Germany. I'm a big football fan, but I don't necessarily know the best way to play. But one message I would give Gareth Southgate tonight would be, when I played in a World Cup final, we'd got there not playing very well. We were about to be kicked out and be the first England team not to make it through to the quarterfinals, and England football are there tonight. And in my head, it was pretty straightforward. Right people, right place, number one, and also get it to the best player on the pitch. Fundamental. The more times the best player touches the ball, the more opportunity, the more chance you've got to win it. And I'm not sure England have truly got that. And selection, he hasn't got the right selection as yet, but we'll find out tonight. And if any of you know some of the players, one of the exciting, most talented players is Jack Grealish, and he wasn't even starting. Get the ball to him more times than often. He gets more fouls. He creates more chances. It's not rocket science. So fingers crossed. If you've recorded this, Gary, please send it on to Gareth. and we'll look forward to an England win. So what's my world now from sport and learning all the lessons I learned in sport? And one of the big transitions for me, joining the board at my business. My father, I'm very lucky that I joined a family business, no longer a family business. He's still involved, but we've gone to kind of the next level. I hadn't really done anything when I ran onto the pitch and 90,000 people cheered you in. I've worked really hard when I go to my board meeting and nobody cheers me in anymore. It's a very different environment. And that sort of hit me pretty big. what the other thing that hit me being is trying to position my industry, myself, my business in the world for people to also care about what we do. And it took me a long while. So we are our sort of rebranding, and our slogan is at the moment redefining the technology life cycle. Now, what does that mean? That means that we don't sell you the technology. We have a services business that helps you with productivity. It means getting you the devices. It means making sure that they're connected. It also make sure that in that transition and transformation that your business, yourself is going through, that you have a handover of your old technology as well. And that's where we really come to the fore. We're a specialist in reverse logistics. So when Sue, you mentioned when a laptop doesn't work, it gets recycled. I was shocked at that point, people's lack of understanding of what actually happened to that device. And that people actually didn't care either. And this is sort of 10 years ago, 2010, I retired from sport. And genuinely people really didn't care. And so I was looking at various things to come along to make people care. And I studied at university tourism, and I loved traveling around the world and with my rugby. So I sort of cared about the planet and cared about the environment. But since net zero's come into the sort of marketplace as the biggest buzzword, I've really looked into it and studied it. And so I did care, but actually the stuff that the information I was giving people, I wasn't educating people, and I didn't have enough business intelligence and information. Now, under the WEEE directive, which is waste electronic and electrical equipment, anything with a plug, that is electrical equipment. We focus on the technology, but obviously, at home you have fridges and washing machines, so that covers it. But in the WEEE directive, which came in 2007, and we're still sort of stuck in that old sort of terminology and world, we only register globally 15% of things that we get rid of and we dispose of. 15%. And it's up to currently 50 million tons of e-waste that gets dumped in landfill. Our issue is so big. It's the fastest growing waste sector currently today, because we don't register it, we don't care about it, and we throw it away and throw it in the bin. Circular economy came around the corner. If anyone doesn't know what circular economy is, please quickly Google Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Ellen's an inspiration and hero. She sailed around the world on her own. Broke world records, and she was reusing everything. She came back with all her sponsors and she said, I've reused everything in my journey around the world. Why can't we reuse? What is the model? She dragged in McKinsey. They drafted reports, and it was pretty damning. We are a linear economy still today. Fact. We take, we make, and we dump. Fact. We are not circular. There are elements of our world that has been circular, still needs to improve. People are innovating in this area. It's fantastic, but we are still linear. We still take from the earth, we make product, and we dump it. Fact, end of story. So what are we trying to do? And that came along in 2014, circular economy. And what circular economy focused on was redesign. We must redesign. Amazon delivery yesterday, a small widget my wife bought, a box that size. I mean, seriously, it's an absolute joke. Amazon just recently, if anyone quickly Google Amazon technology and products, throwing away hundreds of thousands in the bin, hundreds of thousands of product per month. It's absolutely staggering what is going on. It really, really is. Now, with circular economy, I thought, here we go. But everyone's been focused on innovation, redesign, design, packaging, And I'm focused on the technology sector. You know, you got Dell, Apple, I'm on an Apple device, HP, they all have these narratives. What is fantastic now for me in 2021 is net zero carbon. When I researched and when I looked into it, nothing really has been GDPR, circular economy, even the SDGs, you know, on here, does everyone, I'm assuming that everyone understands the 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And we've aligned our business, but that's one part. We've aligned our business to the SDGs. If one company can do all 17, amazing. I'm not sure anyone can, but we, as part of a purpose-led business to link to the SDGs, I think it's really, really important. And we have 4 stars at the moment, and that's how we relate and we market ourselves aligned to specifically 4 SDGs. Tick, fantastic. Well done, Andrew. Well done, my company. But that's just the start of it. What became really apparent to me is if that doesn't equal reducing carbon emissions, we've got a major, major problem in the next decade. Aside from what I do, my industry, what I'm trying to redefine in the tech life cycle, which I'll come on to, and regarding my innovation. But the net zero carbon, oh my gosh, is just insane. So we're still, Germany announced, if anyone, hopefully, if you want to learn more, please, I'm on my LinkedIn page, I'm just putting all this stuff out there. Germany is still bulldozing towns to mine coal today, and it's going to take, you know, some time to do that. Still today, we're trying to use coal. So when I looked into net zero, the obvious thing was I have to align my business to net zero carbon, and that's pretty straightforward to do to get to neutral scope 1 and 2 emissions by renewable. I asked my business 6 months ago, what do we do? Everyone just looked around going, I don't know. So we now are we have soon to be 3 warehouses. We will be buying renewable power, and you can internally manage that. The interesting bit for me, gas, electricity, by the way, and your vehicles, if your company has logistics vehicles, count in that. The interesting bit for me was when I looked into scope 3 emissions. Oh my gosh. So if you, at the moment, scope 1 and 2 for a business that's over 250 employees, I think it's something like 32 million revenue and 19 million pounds worth of assets, net assets. If you qualify for 2 out of those 3, scope 1 and 2 is mandatory today, June 2021, just come in. You have to do it. Your CFO, your FD will be putting in their tax, and it will be non-compliant on your tax return if you don't put forward your scope 1 and 2. What isn't mandatory today is scope 3. And scope 3 has 15 categories, and it's everything else in your business, your entire supply chain. Now, this is music to my ears, because going back to the original point that Sue made, which was, I get rid of a laptop, we recycle it, of course. Does your business truly know, forget IT, just everything in your supply chain, that you have these long-term relationships with businesses that are helping you? Have you really, really assessed them? And that is the massive question. Now, when you scope 3 emissions, you will be assessed across all categories. And so fundamentally, I think if anyone has the chance to watch The Year Earth Changed, which is on Apple TV, David Attenborough, The Year Earth Changed in COVID, it is absolutely amazing what happened, what has happened during COVID. We've been forced into this virtual events. We've been forced into not traveling. some towns in countries that are high polluters have no pollution in that town anymore because we are not polluting, because we've been forced to. It's had such a seismic shift for climate change. Now, are we going to go back to the way it was? Definitely not. We know it's going to be so different. But are we making those choices because of climate? And I'm not sure that we are. And if we are aligned, COP26 coming in November, if we are truly aligned and we want to do something about it, we as employees, we as leaders, we have to share this within our business. We have to become net zero as businesses. For me, it doesn't matter how big or small you are. This means so much in the next decade. We are going to see seismic shift in climate change. Fact, science, fact. It's 45 degrees, 50 degrees in the US and Canada at the moment. My sister-in-law lives in Sydney. Last year, she couldn't walk her children to school because of the forest fires in Sydney. The clouds were coming. If you avoid Sky News because it's so depressing, just watch the climate show. It's on 15 minutes. The narrative is getting worse and worse and worse, and yet we aren't improving quickly enough. So I implore you to look at net zero carbon. Assessing scope 3 is a minefield. I use a consultant around embodied carbon, who's a doctor of embodied carbon, who assesses companies. EY has a massive department that can help you strategize, assess, do all of these things. But the beauty for me now is, okay, assess in terms of scope 3, my scope 1 and 2 is your scope 3, if that makes sense to you. But I need to look at my entire supply chain. I have logistics, I have recycling. And in our world, when I've taken Sue's laptop and I am truly recycling it, I'm not reusing it, which is a really good thing to do, by the way, reuse. And if you'd like to donate your laptops, please Google donatealaptop.co.uk. I'm a trustee to a charity for all the schools that are desperate, still desperate. We have digital poverty in this country. Kids still are now, my kids are off from school because the schools closed down for the last 2 weeks, worried about the other strain. If kids don't have devices at home, they can't keep learning. So Donate a Laptop is there to help you find a local school that you could see on the website in your area they need 18 laptops for children. So just please have a look at that. But Sue's laptop, if we can reuse it, fantastic. If we're needing to recycle it, we break it down. So that laptop gets the plastic taken over. It might have a steel casing. And what you're getting inside is the clever circuitry, the printer circuit board, they call the PCB, the circuit board. Now that circuit board gets put in a stillage, and what it is then done is sold to a scrap recycler. Now that scrap recycler, and this is the vendors, by the way, this is the manufacturers: Today, HP, Dell, Cisco, Microsoft, this is everyone, this is what they do. That PCB goes in a stillage, it goes to a scrap refiner, they shred it, it's sold to a refiner. A refiner, we don't refine in the UK to any size. It goes to China, Japan, and some parts of Europe. So we export all the goodness in that device. Bye-bye, see you later. Now we have a problem, you might have heard, in supply chains. We cannot manufacture quick enough to cope with demand. So we are already seeing a reduction in devices, a lead time of getting devices, goodness knows how long, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 18, the lag is getting more and more significant. The truth of the matter is, it isn't COVID, it is the metals, the rare earth metals, the precious metals. We're running out. When Ellen MacArthur got McKinsey to look into the circular economy, these wonderful Apple devices, and in the touch screen indium. Indium is a rare earth metal that's needed. Indium had, in 2014, 12 years left to mine. Yet how many more devices do we need? We have 5G coming around the corner. Your 4G device won't work on a 5G network.
Andrew, I'm just going to ask you, got 2 more minutes.
No worries. I'm finishing up, literally the crescendo. So what am I doing about it? My business, N2S, 5 years ago, looked at solving the problem. Let's not export. And when we export, we use burning, thermal, carbon emissions. If you've got time, quickly Google Antwerp's toxic problem. You will now see the challenge that we have in our marketplace. So we innovated with Coventry University, the government, and we now have a new solution which we're taking to market, which is using bacteria to break down the printed circuit boards, to break down the metals and all the rare earth metals. So we can, that's why we call it redefining the tech life cycle. So we can put that back into manufacturing, so we don't have to dig it. We don't have to illegally mine it. So we're trying to create a true circular economy with the product that we get by net zero refining, no burning, no acids, no harm to the people, no harm to the planet. It goes back into manufacturing. That is our goal. And we've got a long, long way to go. And it's very, very exciting. So innovation is amazing. It's helping me sell. It's helping me position myself. Net zero is helping me position myself. What can it do for you guys? And I think of nothing else at the moment. I think of nothing else in my life other than my family, is how do I help us all, net zero? How do I help the planet and ourselves, and redefine a system that is broken and has been broken for a long, long time in one small but significant, but nobody knows about it, in that element. So if we all, got our heads together and had that vision, what more could you do? What more could your organizations do? And what more could we do? So lastly, please, look into some of these things that I've spoken about, net zero being one, the circular economy. How can we be better consumers and make sure that we're breaking down things so that we can reuse it. Reuse, from a critical raw material running out of, we have to create a more circular economy. So hopefully you'll join me on the sort of passionate little journey. We're going to rebrand, and we're attending with the government at COP26. And I can't wait to get Elon Musk in a headlock and give him a high five. So, as I said, it's not rocket science, but actually with Elon, it is rocket science. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Gary, for the opportunity. And, I hope that was useful.
Thank you, Andrew. Over to you, Gary.
Andrew, thanks ever so much. I'm sure there will be a lot of people on the call who are as astounded as I am at some of the things that Andrew's talked about. I follow Andrew and connect to him on LinkedIn. And on a daily basis, I'm seeing stuff that is just, quite frankly, mind-blowing. So it's made me so much more aware. And I would encourage all of you to connect with him and listen and follow to some of the stuff that he's talking about, because I think from a personal perspective, we all need to learn more, and collectively we can do more together than we feel we can on our own. Just on a commercial point, I've been lucky enough, I've had an opportunity to go down to Bury St Edmunds to have a look at the facility where Andrew's business is based. And some of the stuff they're doing down there is really amazing. It really is. And what occurred to me was, not only is it incredibly important from a global climate perspective, but from an economic point of view, if you just think about this for a moment, most customers, if you are a B2C business, and certainly most organizations that you might want to partner with, are now very, very aware, acutely aware of other people's green agenda and whether or not you match up to their standards. So if you're thinking about how to position yourself and go for the biggest possible audience, to get your house in order around sustainability is no bad thing. because it will make you more attractive as a proposition to anyone that's looking for products or services, or anyone that's looking to partner with other organisations. So just think about that for a moment. The next element of today is going to be sort of following on that, which is about how to be innovative, how to be creative. We're going to put you in breakout rooms in a moment and commit you to teams effectively, going back to that kind of sporting analogy. So we're all going to have an opportunity to, in our rooms, we're going to introduce ourselves, make sure we're all aware of who else is in the room with us, and then we'll have a challenge that we're all going to work on together. And I think most of you will have received an email yesterday with a document attached to it with an explanation of what this challenge is. But for anyone that didn't receive it or hadn't had a chance to read it, I'll just explain very, very quickly. You'll see 3 lists, and in each list there are 10 fairly common or garden everyday items. What we want you to do within your teams in the breakout rooms is pick 1 item from each of those 3 lists, so effectively 3 items, and combine them in some innovative and creative way. Think about some of the facets or some of the characteristics of those items and how they could be combined to create something new and exciting and different. It doesn't have to be the most practical thing in the world. It can be just something that's really different, but we want you to work together, share ideas, sort of talk and discuss and use it as an opportunity to network and flex your creative muscles at the same time. We're going to give you 20 minutes to do that. The first thing we recommend you do is to elect a team leader, someone that can speak for you, because at the end of that session, when we come back into the main room, the team leaders are going to pitch this event to the panel of experts and see which one is the best.
We want some really funky, interesting stuff.
We don't want boring things.
Boring.
Use your intelligence to try and come up with things that maybe haven't been seen before. And there'll be a facilitator in each of the rooms just to answer any questions and keep you on track with timings. So if Kayleen and Andrew, if you can organise the breakout rooms for us now, that would be absolutely marvellous. And we'll see you back in the main room in about 20 minutes.
So just to remind you, the team nominated captains have exactly 60 seconds to pitch their amazing ideas that the team come up with. And our panel will be voting for their favourites. I don't think there's a particular prize other than the knowledge that you're better than everybody else. You've got 60 seconds, and when you're nearly there, I'll be going like that. So you don't go over your 60 seconds, 10 seconds to go. So Gary, I'm going to ask you, who was nominated as your team captain?
We had Josh Davis, who's our illustrious captain.
Josh, are you ready?
I am ready, yes.
Okay, you have 60 seconds starting from now.
Perfect, thank you very much. Well, so we've started a company called The Barista on Wheels, and essentially the problem that we're looking to solve is that we've got parents that are standing outside school for far too long, having a chat when they're picking up their kids, and they don't have coffees in their hands when they really should do. So the 3 products that we're looking to use, we've been a bit of a maverick and we've broken some of the rules. So we're using a backpack, which is a thermal backpack, and a scooter, so that we can deliver coffee to these adults at school. It's essentially like an ice cream truck for adults. And with that, we've got a kettle that is going to plug into the scooter via a USB port that'll help to brew the coffee. And all the revenue from this, I believe I've understood this right, is going to go towards supporting the children and school, or at least some of the revenue to go and buy computer systems that they can take home for when obviously COVID strikes and they have to stay at home so they can stay connected to their school and continue learning. So it's learning powered by coffee, which I think is, to be honest, the way that the majority of us work anyway. Our work days are often powered by coffee. So that's us, that's the Barista on Wheels.
Excellent. 55 seconds. Loving your timing there, Josh. Excellent. Very
Josh.
Nice one. So Ed, can you tell me who your team captain was?
Leon Davies has taken up the position of captain.
Okay, Leon, you've got to do better than the old, the coffee on wheels, really.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I am, yeah. So we're going to be called Norfolk Escape the City. So we're going to use a scooter, an iPad and a speaker. And what we're going to do, instead of going in an escape room and escaping from the room, we're going to escape the city. So there's loads of things that you can do with families. We'll use the Beryl scooters in the city with geocache. And if you go wrong, the scooters will just stop you. And the speaker and the iPad will direct you in the right things. So give you little reminders. All the appliances will be powered by solar and wind. And it's very much for everyone, from families to corporate, to stag do's, hen parties, to anyone. So yeah, very different.
And have you got a catchy little phrase for this? A little bit of marketing thing going on?
Well, only we just got escape the city, escape the rooms at the minute.
Escape the city. It doesn't say much about Norwich, really, does it?
It did say Norfolk.
Norfolk. Okay, just Norfolk in general. Okay.
You could have it in different parts. Swaffham, Holt, Yarmouth.
Excellent.
So you've accidentally muted yourself?
I've accidentally muted myself. Well done. So well done for going inside the minute again, Leon. Andrea, and who's your team captain?
Yes, so our team captain is Phil Bailey.
Phil, are you up for this challenge?
Oh yes, Sue, thank you.
You have 60 seconds, go.
Oh yeah, so we had toaster, kettle and speaker. So my mother has Alzheimer's, and through the chatting with the group, the idea was that we'd have a toaster, kettle or other household objects with a speaker in it, which would then give off verbal cues and safety messages. So other people in our group also had members who had suffering from Alzheimer's. So we then had a big discussion about all the other objects, most of the objects on the list actually. So we looked at the compass so we could have proximity, as it were, devices, as it were. So as you approach it, it alerts you. We mentioned also the chips in the credit card as well, again, for embedding it in the item. And safety measures about other items on that list. So we kind of went through the whole list and used it. So that is our team's decisions.
Thank you, Phil. So my take on that is a speaking toaster et al.
And other devices.
Jolly good, jolly good. Emma, who was your team captain, please?
Thank you. So our team captain was James Groves.
James, I'm not seeing many females speaking here as team captains. Anyway, James, are you up for your?
I'm ready, Sue. I'm ready.
Do it.
So our product is called, and I've made most of this up just now. Our product is called What's in the Sky. So we've taken the telescope, the iPad, and the speaker. So the problem it solves is you look in the sky all the time, you ain't got a clue what you're looking at. Not a diggy bird. So you use the telescope. It looks in the sky. Whatever you're looking at appears on the iPad and gives you some information. And the speaker talks you through what you're looking at the time. Doesn't just have to work with what's in the sky. You could look at what's on the ground. You might spot a unique animal or something like that. The iPad and the speaker will do the same. So that was our idea. Very quickly, Mark will kill me if I didn't say, but we also had the idea, or Mark, should I said, had the idea of supporting the circular economy by setting up a swap shop with list A, list B, list C. So once you're finished with something in list A, you can swap it with something in list B and then in list C. So if you had a child, for example, they would have the, child's car seat. Once they're done with the child's car seat, they'll be able to swap that for an iPad. And then once they're done with the iPad, they could swap it for maybe a dinghy. But that was just an out there idea that I said I'd mention. Done.
Swapping an iPad for a dinghy. I'm sure that would happen an awful lot.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, James. What's in the Sky? And our final presentation. Jonathan, who was the captain in your group?
It was Matt Phillips. I'm sure you did a fantastic job.
Hi everyone. Our idea was first to start with one of the items that we thought we could, that was suffering from a bit of a lack of innovation, and that we could build a bit of an ecosystem around. So we kind of gravitated on the car seat as a starting point, and then thought, well, what could we do that's interesting and different? And then one of the group mentioned that actually getting a car seat out of a car for a parent is a bit of a challenge. It can be difficult on the back, it's not very comfortable. So we thought, well, if we connected that to the door handle, we could have some kind of automated way that makes it easier to get kids out of the car. Then out of that, we looked at the third list and thought, well, what else could we combine with that? Could be a torch to shed light on it. And then that sort of made us think, well, let's build something more and more around it. So inspired by the circular economy idea, we thought, well, how about creating a standard for car seats that grow with the children as they grow, so you don't have to continually buy a new car seat as the kid gets older. And the business would be to make it that a kind of subscription model brand around this sort of standard of car seats. And then you can build an ecosystem of torches, connected devices, Internet of Things around it to build a bit of a business around that. So that was the main idea. The other one was sunglasses plus iPad plus compass, but Google Glass did that and it was crap. So we forego that idea.
I think the problem with the Google Glasses, particularly in the UK, is that it just makes you look an idiot. So like, it'd be amazing technology, but it makes you look pretty stupid. So, okay then. So I have my wonderful panel of experts. We're going to pitch some questions to them in a minute. So that's Emma, Sally, Alice, and Jonathan. And you have 5 choices here. We have Escape the City, Speaking Toaster. I'm obviously making this incredibly short. Coffee on Wheels, What's in the Sky, and The Growing Car Seat. Emma, can I ask you for your decision?
I'm going to go for What's in the Sky.
What's in the Sky? Okay, that's one vote for that.
I'd use that.
yeah, one vote for that. And Sally, your particular thoughts? You just need to unmute, I think, probably. I'm doing that a lot at the moment. That's the one.
Sorry, everybody. Yeah, I thought Josh did a great pitch, very convincing. So I'm going for Barista on Wheels.
Barista on Wheels. Okay. And Alice, your background at Hethel Innovation, any particular favourites for you?
My favourite was also Barista on Wheels. Yeah, brilliant pitch and the whole value and investment into the children as well really won it for me.
This is looking good for Barista in Wales. And finally, Jonathan, your particular favourite?
Well, I thought they were all fantastic, and I'm trying to be pragmatic, but to be honest, I think who doesn't want a better car seat? So I'll have to go with my team and put the car seat on the door idea as the top.
So we had one vote for What's in the Sky, one vote for car seats, but it's the Barista on Wheels that did it. So congratulations. I think we could all just give a virtual clap.
Well done, Josh.
Well done, Josh.
Well done, Josh. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to reintroduce the team of the panel. Please do ask some questions. I have some prepared questions here. We've got a team of people who are really experienced and got very particular angles in business. So make the most of it if you can. Ask some questions today. I'll be looking at those on the right hand side of my screen. So just a little recap. Emma Blaylock is an SME business growth consultant, and she advises owners on startup and scale up, particularly growth strategy and organizational design. And she was formerly at Kindle and head of finance at a tech startup. So she's got some really good practical experience underneath that. Sally Goodsall is managing director of Anglia Capital Group. She's an experienced business angel investor with a particular interest in supporting women's enterprise and high growth businesses. So if perhaps using an angel investor is something you're interested in, so some good questions you could ask there. Alice Reeve, I've just been talking to Alice and I didn't realise she is CEO of Hethel Innovation and joined Hethel Innovation as a graduate, and then it's just swept everybody away with her brilliance and is now CEO. It's her first job. So she must be really good at what she's doing. And as we all know, Hethel Innovation is one of East Anglia's premier low carbon innovation hubs, dedicated to supporting the growth and success of high performance engineering and manufacturing companies. And I'm sure she can answer a huge number of questions about sustainability and a broad range of NPD. And Jonathan Goodacre, UK and European patent and design attorney for Kelty LLP. And they provide SMEs with specialist IP knowledge across sustainability, biotech, chemistry, and agritech sectors, as well as many other sectors too. So I'm going to ask a question while I'm waiting for you guys to ask some questions here. Emma, I just want to ask you a particular question, which I know happened to me when I was trying to scale my business. You're expanding very rapidly, you're working longer and longer hours, and despite the fact you've started to recruit staff, how do you create space for you to start leading and managing the business rather than just taking on more operational tasks? And I think this is a real key issue for getting through to that next level. How do you do that?
Absolutely. And I get this question a lot from the companies that I'm working with. It's a really common kind of problem for growing companies. How do you get that time to innovate, to lead, and not get bogged down in the operational detail, which, you know, is important, can't go aside as well. And I think the key thing, we talk quite a lot about this, and but it's actually can be very difficult to do, is around, you know, building a strong kind of supporting team around you and delegating effectively. Now that is, for a lot of people, that's easier said than done, particularly when this is your, you know, your company that you've created and your baby. But actually, building those people around you that you have to trust them. They may do things in a different way to how you might, but actually, you know, what you need to focus on are the outcomes. Are we all getting to the right outcomes for the company? And to grow, you do need to delegate. I think also the other thing is around making sure you spend the time to prioritize what your key focus areas are. Again, it's very easy to kind of get swept down into the detail, but actually thinking really clearly about what are the top priorities for the company, and making sure that you're spending, you know, a decent amount of time on those priorities every day, so you're not swept up in things that aren't necessarily going to help you grow as much. And I think the third thing is around, you know, you have to make that time in your day. You have to make that time for leadership and innovation. So whether that's scheduling, you know, regular meetings, team meetings, they can be, I've seen stand-up meetings work very effectively, where everyone kind of quickly at the beginning each morning talks about, you know, what they've achieved the day before, what they're doing this day, making sure that everyone's focused on the right tasks. And just make sure you've got that time in your schedule, and everyone has to, you know, be effective. Those are kind of the key things.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I did specifically is actually block things out in my diary. So as you get higher up the organisation, people take control of your diary, and then you find you wake up in the morning, you've just got back to back stuff. And so I used to actually put things in my diary once a week, no appointments, you know, just a couple of slots across the week, because you just need to give yourself some space. I mean, I think the other thing that I used to do is look at, okay, what can I give away now as the company is growing? What am I prepared to give to somebody else? So the first thing I let go of was the HR stuff. Then I started letting go of the marketing, and the last thing I let go of was the finance stuff. And it's like, who can I sort of really mentor and get to take this over and work really closely with them to the point where you can give that up. And I think you can't continue to do all those things as you grow. So you have to select the ones that you're willing to give away first, and as you say, let people get on with it, and then you know, gradually give away more and more, I think. Okay, thank you very much for that, Emma. Sally, as we grow, you can feel quite lonely at the top. I know I have before, and it feels like everything, you're responsible for everything. If I need some more investment for my company, I could get an investor to sit on the board and help advise me personally as we expand. And I think that's probably a good idea. How do I find a good angel investor, you know, one that would act as an advisor and not just take a chunk of my business and sort of run off?
Yeah, it's an interesting, that's an interesting perception of an angel investor. I mean, of course, an angel investor wants to make a return on their investment. That's what they're in it for. But the whole point, I think, about an angel investor is that they're motivated not just to make financial returns, but to add value to the investment. That's the whole point of why they want to do it, really. I mean, our angel investors, we would say 90% of their wealth is tied up in conventional investments. So they've got their, you know, their property, their stock market investments, but their kind of 10% is where they can be proactive and actually proactively manage their investment. And that's why a lot of people do become business angels, because they want to give back, they want to work with exciting entrepreneurs, and it is about kind of adding their experience and skills. So we call it smart capital, smart patient capital. So probably the best way, if you're a scalable, ambitious, high growth business, to look for a business angel, go on to the UKBAA, which is the trade body for early stage finance in the UK, and it will list a whole list of business angel groups that operate throughout the UK. And you'll find specialist angel groups that perhaps invest just in green investments, or others that just do fintech, or others that might do insurtech, or you'll find generalist groups which tend to be more localized. So for instance, Anglia Capital Group, we are a business angel group based in East Anglia. So we give preference to companies based in our area, and the investors here are all local. They made their money from businesses around here, and they want to give back, and they want to work with local entrepreneurs. I mean, other ways of attracting a business angel these days, which is quite popular, go on LinkedIn and find anybody with investor or business angel in their title and write them an email. And that has been more and more successful.
Yeah, you do need to check them out, don't you? You know, don't be flattered by people who want to buy into your business. You know,
totally. You know, that's right, Sue. And I think the due diligence
don't
process.
go with the first one and check them out. You know, it's worse than being married. You know, you really need to get all the background. Definitely. Sally, is it possible that people can contact you if they want a bit of advice through LinkedIn?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Link in with me in LinkedIn, or drop me an email. Yeah, drop me a message there. Really happy to talk to them. And yeah, absolutely, Sue. Due diligence is both ways. There's a lot of sharks out there that you wouldn't want involved in your business. So go, you know, if they say I'm an investor and they've got other companies in their portfolio, go and talk to them. Ask for permission to talk to other people that they've invested in, and ask them what the experience was with that particular investor. Same with funds. If you're lucky enough to attract a VC investor, talk to other people. What are they like? What's their culture? Are they good to work with? That's really important.
And Sally has put the UKBAA website link on the chat function. We have a question here. Oh, actually, a good comment here by Leon. I'd also tell the investors you are EIS or SEIS, so that's the Enterprise Investment Scheme. This is a really attractive element for investors because it's got massive tax breaks. And for me, it's also a really good idea because they have to be invested in you for 3 years. They can't just walk off, otherwise they forego their tax benefits. So brush up on EIS and SEIS if you're not already part of that. Question from a lot about innovation here. So Alice, I'm going to ask you a bit about innovation. It's fair because you're the CEO of an Innovation Hub. Tom has asked, how do you preserve the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit in an organisation? I've also got a question here, which I think is very interesting from Gary, which is, what lessons can small businesses learn from big businesses about being more creative? No, that's absolutely wrong, Gary. What can big businesses learn from small business? Because we're much more entrepreneurial, and they are. So I'm going to
absolutely.
To Tom's question, Alice, how do you grow a business with all the the sort of discipline you need for that, but still have that innovative and entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, I think the two key things for me, and it links to what Emma said earlier about kind of using stand-ups and that agile methodology is, and you're completely right, Sue, it's more what big businesses can learn from little ones in this scenario as opposed from learning from the big boys. But two key things for me are, if you have entrepreneurship and innovation as your key values, make sure all the systems that you're going to be setting up as you grow from one person in a shed through to having 20, 30, 50 people employed, they all tie back to those values. And something that we're doing within our organisation is, it's not rule-based systems, they're values and principle-based systems. We're not tying people down and saying this is exactly how you need to behave and work with this. We're saying, right, this is a framework, go off and work within it and still innovate within it. So you're giving them that freedom to be creative and come up with their own suggestions. I think something else.
So second, from the top, Alice, as well. So absolutely. Your attitude and behaviours are mimicked no matter what you say. You can't say these are our values and you not act it yourself. Is that?
Of course, yeah. So you need to be leading and demonstrating, and it shows people that they're not going to get told off, and they don't have that fear of actually putting themselves out there and coming up with suggestions. It's something that we've really pulled through. And the second thing that I'd say is, look into Agile if you haven't already. It's not something new on the block. A lot of people will be using it already. There's a misconception around we can't use Agile because we're not developing digital or IT products. What I would say is Agile is to be adapted. Emma mentioned about kind of daily stand-ups. So we do that every day within our business development team. We run 2-week sprints, but that's not developing a product over 2 weeks. We just every 2 weeks have a whole morning booked out to say, right, what went really well, what hasn't gone well over the last 2 weeks, who struggled. And as you said, Sue, it's about leading from the top in that. So I will attend that, the business development manager will attend, and we'll say what we struggled with and what we got wrong. And it's all about being open and showing mistakes and rewarding the reaction to mistakes instead of shaming the mistake itself. Talk about what happened, and make sure that everyone's learning from it, and there's not that case of I'm going to yell at you and humiliate you for making that. We're actually going to learn, talk about it all together, have suggestions from other people, and me and my managers are going to do that and lead it.
And I think the massive advantage of being a small business is big businesses cannot react as quickly as you can. You can easily, get to market way quicker than somebody else. They may well copy, they'll be blooming slow doing it. And I think for me, it was very easy for somebody to say, I've got this great idea, should we do this? Great, okay, we'll do it tomorrow. There's no reason why we shouldn't do it tomorrow, so we do it tomorrow. If it doesn't work, failing quickly is important, isn't it, Alice?
Absolutely, yeah. And you're going to do that. You're going to be able to launch and close down products far quicker than the big businesses. They will be so stuck in processes and have so many different gateways to get through, even to close a project if it's failing. So don't be scared to give something a go, but also don't be scared to close it down if it's not working. And it's that whole thing around rewarding the mistake. If it's not working, be honest and close it quickly.
Yeah, just close it very, very quickly. Just a comment here from Stefan. Agile is important, and he would endorse that, but it's not just for software developers, as Alice quite rightly said. Where could we find out about Agile if we're not particularly up on it, Alice?
So we use
Google.
Yeah, we use a particular training body called Agile8, but actually just there's loads and loads of resources on Google, and you don't have to do a formal training program. Go off and do a bit of research in the afternoon and you'll get the basics very quickly.
Okay, great. Now over to Jonathan. Could you just explain to us, Jonathan, about how you would patent something, just in a very short space of time? And is it possible to do that with software, with code?
So two separate questions, but absolutely, to answer the easier one first, software code in itself you can't patent. That's covered by copyright. So there's many different forms of IP protection out there, and that's a thing to really take home from IP protection is there are many ways to skin a cat here. So the code itself is copyright, but it's what the software does that you might be able to patent. So when you have software, when you have web interfaces, when you have apps, just think about what it's actually doing in the real world and then focus on that for your patents. But in terms of obtaining a patent, the only thing I'd say, and tying a little bit what Alice was saying, and it's been the general theme, is that how do you encourage innovation? Well, you can reward for that. You can reward your employees, you can reward yourself by actually getting some benefit from innovation, by not only having that atmosphere and the culture that encourage innovation, but then capture that somehow. Keep a simple spreadsheet even of the ideas you've had, because it has many advantages in terms of being able to oversee that as time goes on, to be able to see what your thoughts were last year and why you didn't go for that idea, but now maybe you would want to. But from an IP perspective, IP protection perspective, then it also helps you to prioritize your ideas, because as we all know, IP is expensive. But what you really want to do is protect what you need to protect and nothing else. So if you have that spreadsheet and if you can decide, yes, this needs patent protection, or actually that works as a trade secret and I know trade secrets are free, then that helps you to structure your IP protection for the minimal costs, really. And that's, I think, is the most important. You're getting an IP strategy around your commercial importance.
So, I mean, it's a really good point, actually. So you've got loads of ideas coming forward, which is Alice is explaining, you're trying to foster that. that sort of culture, but actually you do need to find some type of analysis of working out which ones are going to be more beneficial and which ones actually definitely need protecting. And I think what you're saying about the software question is it's about functionality. It's not about the written code underneath. So if you've got an amazing piece of functionality, that's what you can patent, not the actual code. Have I got that right, Jonathan?
That's absolutely right. And there's big differences between Europe and the US on that as well. So, but you're always brushing up against non-patentable subject matter. So that's always a challenge. But really, if your software is doing something useful, there's potential for patenting there somewhere.
Yeah. Perfect. And just a quick comment from Bill. Bill was a retired airline pilot. I've seen films about you, I think, Bill, might have been you. And he swears by a no blame culture. And you can imagine when things are about health and safety and really critical issues, it is important that people can ask questions or raise issues at any point and at any level. And he suggests setting up good processes and checklists to achieve that and achieve consistency. Emma, I'm going to go back to you with another question. In fact, I'm going to ask you all of this question. Is there any company that you have seen in the last 4 or 5 years that is doing something amazing that you're completely wowed by and feel that we should know about?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to talk about Optalysis, actually, which is the startup that I was part of for 6 years, left last year. And what they were doing, they're building an optical chip. So traditionally, computer chips are made from silicon. This is using light instead of silicon to process data. The thing that amazes me about that is, one, it's processing this data at the speed of light, which we all know is incredibly fast. And, this is in a world where demand for faster and faster processing is just exploding. But at the same time, it is incredibly power efficient. So if you think of all these data centers and the amount of energy they're consuming, if you look at sort of Bitcoin mining and the energy that's consuming, and as we kind of linking back to Andrew's talk, actually, as we think about sustainability and the impact on the planet, things that allow us to process more and more data, but at a highly energy efficient way, is absolutely key for how we move forward. And that's what amazes me about that technology. So really excited to see where that goes.
Yeah. Matt has also on the chat function posted an amazing company, as we say, skydiamond.com. Sally, anybody you've seen doing really amazing things at the moment that you're very impressed by? Probably needs to unmute yourself there, and just while she's doing that, just to let you know, I haven't got
you'd think after 18 months of this, I would get used to it. Just to say, I've just seen, at Anglia Capital, we see some amazing businesses. And Emma, it's interesting that you brought up Optalysis, which is obviously one of our portfolio companies. I think some of the medical devices companies that we've seen lately have been incredible. And there's one that pitched to us last year, which is, obviously, health is such a precious resource to us, and actually trying to reduce hospital visits and direct intervention by health professionals is a massive challenge. And this company has come up with remote monitoring of eye health by actually gamifying it. So children who would have had to have gone to a hospital visit and had, eye tests on a regular basis can now sit at home and do effectively a game that will measure their eyes, their vision, and that data can be just then sent to their practitioner and exactly the same thing done. So the child doesn't have to go into hospital, have tests where they may be anxious, parent doesn't have to take time off work. So it's really meeting the challenges of today's living. But, go onto our website, see some of the amazing companies that we're backing locally. We're really proud of our portfolio. There's some incredible innovation going on. But to go back to your original point, Sue, innovation is no good unless it's matched with a passionate entrepreneur that can actually make it happen. And that's really what we as investors are looking for. Absolutely innovation, absolutely patent protection, all that sort of thing. But if it's not being led by a passionate, knowledgeable, resilient entrepreneur, then the idea will probably never fly.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you a slightly different question, Alice. Again, anything that has made you sit back and go, wow, which in an innovation centre I would imagine is, but also any tips that you may have that we should be looking out for future innovations that you can see it heading towards.
Of course, yeah. So I'm going to plug one of our tenants because it would be rude of me to come on an event and not plug one of them. So there's a company called Easy Truck, so that's EZE Truck, that have recently joined the centre, and that's a perfect example of a group of engineers who are really passionate about transforming the transport industry, in particular commercial vehicles. And I love it because they have not engineered something new. They've not come up with a new battery technology. They're not doing anything particularly new with drivetrain, but what they've done is they were experts in all the different technologies. They assessed the market and thought, there's a gap there. We're going to put all these technologies together and go for it. And so they're now developing an electric van for inner city commercial deliveries that can go on 3 shifts, so 24 hours, and are building all the charging points and infrastructure around it as well. So that would be my plug for an SME who's doing really great things. I think in terms of what's coming up within innovation and big opportunities, the 2 big things that we keep hearing at the moment, and these are our immediate opportunities, are around the number of skilled people who lost their jobs within advanced manufacturing and engineering over the last 18 months, and the businesses that have survived, making sure they make the most of those skills who are now floating around. So increasing your internal capability and resources to turn those ideas that could be innovations into a sustained product. And I think the other thing that's really important, especially with the limitations on travel and all the supply chain issues that we have at the moment, is making use of the supply chain you have, being able and willing to cut and change them where necessary, and bringing in that whole agile methodology right the way through your supply chain, not just within your own business. So I think they're the 2 up and coming opportunities that will help support innovations as we go through the next couple of years.
Very good advice. I'm quickly going to ask Jonathan the same question in a minute. Really good question from Leon. Is it possible any of us could come up to you at Hethel and have a good old nose around? Is that allowed?
Of course, yes. So we're actually just upgrading our conferencing facilities, ready to open in July. So yeah, I'd love to extend an invite once we're open.
Okay, so any of you are in attendance here, I presume we could look on your website periodically, and we'll be able to see when we can come have a look. It's a great place, by the way, so do go and have a look around.
Cool.
Jonathan, our final question, just to wrap up before we hand over to Gary to finish at 11:15. Anything, I mean, you're obviously seeing, people patenting and doing all sorts of stuff for protection. I know you wouldn't be able to mention any names because there'll be clients, but is there anything you're seeing that you're very excited about at the moment?
So my background is pharmaceutical chemistry. I used to be a pharmaceutical chemist for GSK, and so a lot of my work history has been in that area, medtech, biotech. But nowadays I focus almost entirely on sustainability and agri-tech, actually, because it is such an exciting place to be. And I mean, I can say the same things about any business in the area, that the challenge of IP protection, from my point of view, is always that it's relatively expensive at a time when people don't have the budgets to afford it. And so, especially in this area where necessarily funding isn't quite as established as, say, medtech and other areas, is trying to find innovative ways to get the protection you need to build that company to a stage that then it can fly. And you see the great ideas coming, but the challenge we face in the IP protection industry is trying to work with those companies to try and build them up to get what they want from their IP and allow them to grow from there. So some things that most people know you can't put right with IP, and you need to get in there early and do the right things. So that's what we try and help people to do. But there is so much exciting things going on there. I won't mention any names. I know there's a couple of people online now who I know very well who are doing some fantastic things. But
thank you very much. Well, I'm going to have to wrap it up here. Thank you so much. And Gary's going to do some thank yous, but thank you so much to the panel in particular, Emma, Sally, Alice and Jonathan, for giving up your time. Please make sure you connect with each other. The real way to make your business grow is to collaborate and make networks and try and give yourself some time to do that. So please connect with the people that you've met with today. If you look on the notes page, you will see that the next event is already up there from the wonderful Norfolk Chambers of Commerce. So again, have a good look at those. And if you could do us a favour and just answer the survey, it'd be really great, because this is the first one we've done of these and we would like to learn from it. And if there's stuff that you think is rubbish, or you think I'm a particularly bad presenter and we need somebody else, or anything like that, if you could get that, it means we can make all these events better as we go along. Thank you so much for all attending. Gary, I'm going to hand over to you to sign off.
Thanks very much, Sue. Sue's kind of covered everything really, but a big thank you to everyone that took the time out this morning to attend. There's no point in us hosting events if people are not going to come, and obviously we do it because we completely believe in the power of collaboration and sharing ideas. I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of the people that are on the call, and I can say with my hand on my heart that some of the work that you're all doing is incredible. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm sure that there will be people that you've met today or seen for the first time that you want to reach out to and talk to. So once you finish the call, before you go off and get embroiled in reading all your emails and walking the dog or checking who's playing in the football tonight, go on LinkedIn, connect to as many people as you can, try and arrange to get some time with them to have a chat, or in the case of Hethel, book a time to go up and see what they're doing, because I promise you, you will get huge value out of this. As Sue said, the next event is on the 27th of July. We've already got a couple of really great speakers lined up for that. But if you've got any ideas and feedback, thoughts, things that you'd like to see and hear, we're really, really open to that. So, please fire across any ideas, either through our friends at the Chamber or directly to us. Thanks to Sue, thanks to Andy for their enormous input today, and keep innovating, keep talking, keep collaborating, and we'll see you all hopefully in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much indeed.